2-year-old, still practicing and doing good work. So let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Canals.
Thank you very much, Denise. Thank you. I love it. All right. Welcome. All right. Where are we at? Thank you all for coming to the Veg Fest. I think, I've been around for a long time, and this is certainly a great movement, and I'm so excited to see all of these people coming to these Veg Fest. What I'll talk about today is probably a little bit more on sustainability and where we're at as a world, where we're at as a community. And certainly, those of us in real estate know this common term, location, location, location. And that's incredibly important for us here on this earth. The reason it is, let's see if I got this. I can do this. Hang on a minute. Technology and myself, we have a serious problem getting together. Technology and I.
It's okay, Mike is good with technology.
See? Okay, good. There we are. Where are we? Well, answer that question. Which button do I push?
To the right,
Right button.
There we go. Okay. All right. I got it now. Where are we and why are we in this handbasket? Let's take a look. We'll move along pretty quick.
The doctor who spoke a little while ago that works for Millennium, where is his children?
Now, nothing in biology
The doctor
makes
that
sense
spoke.
except in the life of evolution. All right? Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. Most of us in biology over the years are fully aware that evolution is an ongoing process, and we are all in that evolutionary process. Now, this present course that we're on will lead us to our 6th mass extinction here on Earth. There have been 5 others, and all of the previous mass extinctions have been due to one cause, and that cause, it doesn't show here, but that cause has been climate change. Climate change is the one cause that has caused the devastation of our planet on 5 different occasions. What that means is everything on top of the Earth dies, pretty much so. So our perspective of what life is all about is quite a bit different. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is a perception. Our perception of what we're doing in life today can be somewhat different. Here's a perception of a rabbit. Now, that perception, if seen by someone, can be seen as a rabbit, but it can also be seen as a duck. So it depends on your perception. That's very much what's going on in our society today. We have this difference of opinion of the same situation. How do we change that? Well, here's where we're at. This is the Milky Way galaxy, and that's where we're located. We're way down there, and one of our stars is called the Sun. And we rotate around that sun along with a few other planets. Did you know we can actually see other planets at night? As a matter of fact, in the summertime, you can see Jupiter quite frequently. But anyway, we have only gone to 1 or 2 other planets with other spacecraft. We can't even extend our life across that whole barrier there. It's incredibly large. And that's only one of 500 plus galaxies in space. We are a very, very tiny creature. And we are the only creatures that live on a planet. This is our blue marble, Earth. That's North America there, South America below, and we see little Florida sticking out there as that little appendage. That's where we're at. Now, the reason that's important is because of this next slide. Now, we want to know whether Earth is flat or whether it's round. There are a lot of flat earthers that state that Earth is totally flat, but we in science have proven that Earth is not flat because of the following. If Earth was flat, certainly all cats would have pushed everything off by now. So let's take a look. Here's where we live. This is what we call our biosphere. The biosphere only extends less than a mile high and not very far underground. We can't live anywhere else. We only live on the surface of the earth. We can't live a mile high. We can't live 2 feet below the earth. That's our ecosystem. We don't have a thing here. Okay, our ecosystem, we see solar radiation, we see the water, disturbances, habitat, and plant community. Any of those things are disrupted, we fail. They are all connected. Let's go to part 2. What are the things that we're really destroying here on Earth? We're destroying them by polluting Earth. We have garbage waste. We're converting fresh water into polluted and contaminated water. Our carbon dioxide is really horrible. It's draining our Earth processes, radiation waste, plastics. We're causing deforestation. A decrease in our bugs. I remember when I grew up, I used to catch lightning bugs. Anybody? I don't see them anymore. Where are they? They're gone. All kinds of bugs are gone. We're destroying our environment, right and left. Habitat destruction, we know that. We're building dams, we're mining, we're destroying the earth, 1 acre at a time. Overpopulation of species is an incredible area, especially when you're talking about those of us that are humans. That's the handbasket. We are really destroying our earth at this point. We have got to change behaviors if we don't. Now, a couple of the other points that I'm going to point out here will be areas that you can change your behavior in. So, not enough stress, this should help. The 5 big mass extinctions have always been related to climate change, and that's exactly what we're headed today. That's why climate change is so important for all of us at this point. We must try to eliminate this aspect of climate change. Now, Venus is a planet that's really next to us toward the sun. It's considered the hottest planet of all the planets that we know of, and the reason that it's considered the hottest planet is not because it's closer to the sun, but because it's covered with CO2. And that's exactly what we're doing with our Earth today. By producing all the methane gas, all the CO2 from animal agriculture, we're producing a CO2 covering over ourselves, and that covering is like a plastic sheet that is suffocating us. One of the problems is that sitting has become the new smoking. We're all sitting to the point that smoking and sitting are now comparable causes of death. We don't move enough. Of course, we eat the wrong junk. We sleep. We flip and flop. And we have constant stress. They talk about the saber-toothed tiger having a lot of stress, but how often did our prehistoric ancestors meet a saber-toothed tiger? Not very often, maybe once a month at most. But we're on constant stress constantly. If you drive a car, you're under stress. What we have done is we've altered our basic lifestyle. And that's where we're at presently. So, one of the things that I wanted to point out is that there are a number of people that are complaining that climate science, they're denying any aspect that we're destroying the earth. Well, the tobacco industry years ago came out with a concept, was written in an email by one of their executives saying, we don't have to prove that cigarettes cause cancer, we just have to prove doubt. So you can prove doubt, or if you can create doubt in someone, you have then manipulated them to the point that you can convince them. Every species on Earth has a biologically appropriate diet. We don't see wild animals being fat, we don't see wild animals being skinny unless their diet has been changed. Secondly, the single exception With the single exception of humans, all species self-regulate the amount of food they eat. That's why we don't see fat or skinny animals out there in the wild. Left to our own devices, we would be fine. Humans, 2/3 are overweight, and obesity is a major medical disease. Obesity was declared a disease process about 10 years ago by the American Medical Association. So, animals consume organic material, animals breathe oxygen, animals are able to move, animals can reproduce sexually, and they can grow from a sphere of cells during embryonic development. So, those are the criteria for animals. I want you to understand that we are an animal. We meet every one of those criteria. So it's not animals versus humans. We are animals. Everything about us is an animal. We exist on this planet just like other animals do. We are no different. We have a few less hairs on our body, that is with the exception of my brother-in-law, who I'll not mention now. But, yes, we are serious. We are all animals. That's who we are. And we have to learn how to behave and act like animals. Sophisticated animals. Animals behave in an organized manner. We do not do that. And so we've altered our natural behavior. Eating, exercising, sleep, stress, socialization. Those are all areas that are focused on our, is he okay? Eating, exercising, sleep, stress, socialization. If you'll take a look at all of those factors there, those are the factors that lifestyle medicine focuses on. The fact of eating, nutrition, our exercise, movement, our sleep, rest, our stress, and keeping calm, and socialization. That appears to be an avenue that us humans have that most other creatures don't have. How did we move into that direction? That's probably how we moved in that direction. The lady is saying, there, well, doesn't it feel good to stand up straight and add some flair to your wardrobe? That may not be the way it happened, but in a way, that's where we're at today. So what are the lifestyle behaviors that we need to alter? Certainly nutrition. Standard American diet is called the SAD, and it is indeed quite sad. Now, the SOS stands for salt, oils, and sugar. As I was kind of looking to prepare this lecture, I was working with a kind of a portable unit that my wife and I travel with. It's a speaker that is powered by the sun, and it has a lot of other little tiny gadgets on it, and I didn't know what they were. So I was playing with it the other night, sitting out on the terrace, and I found a light, and the light comes on, and then you push another button, and the light goes into a blinking mode, and you push another button, and it goes into 3 dots, and then 3 dashes, and 3 dots. Well, that's the international signal for SOS. When I was in the Navy, I was a radio man, and that SOS signal meant extreme danger. If you ever heard that on the radio or saw that from a distance from another ship, you knew that ship was in extreme danger. So whenever you see SOS, that means extreme danger. I think the analogy is also the same when we see salt, oil, and sugar in our foods. That's an extreme danger. None of those foods are really needed. None of those foods are necessary. An extreme danger. Let's take a look at exercise. It says that we're supposed to exercise about 30 minutes, equal to 150 minutes per week. I don't know anyone who exercises that unless it was that big fellow a while ago, that 6'8" guy, 145 pounds. He probably exercises 30 minutes a day, but we don't. None of us exercise that much, but we need to move. That's a given. Most of us don't move. We settle down, we sit on the couch, we come home, we work. We don't move in an efficient way. An efficient way is walking. We were born to walk. Running's an exercise program that we have developed later on. Sleep, we're supposed to sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. I'll not go into that. That's a long, drawn-out process. Stress. Stress causes an increase in a substance called cortisol. When it goes back to the fight or flight syndrome, in which when something either scares us, we either defend ourselves by fighting or we run away from it. But in the same token, our body says we need to do something. So to run away fast, what our body does, it suddenly produces a high amount of different substances in the body. One of those substances is cortisol. Cortisol is our fear factor, and when it's in the bloodstream, it's irritating to the bloodstream. It causes inflammation, and cortisol can actually penetrate and irritate the endothelial cells within our vessels. Those endothelial cells are only one cell deep, so that cortisol can damage that. Long-term stress can indeed produce cardiovascular disease. That's a given. And the fact is that we are under constant stress today. Substance abuse. This is something that animals have, especially those of us in the human category. And those categories that have come along over the years are smoking, alcohol, opioid addiction, and now vaping. Those now are all considered aspects of substance abuse and all contribute to our cause of death in the nation today. Socialization. The reason that we can socialize and interact and plan much more than other animals can is because of our brain. Our brain has increased a little bit, and it's a large system. Our head's about 20 pounds, our brain weighs about 3 pounds, and here we are, a little human body carrying all this weight around, so it's no wonder we have neck aches and back aches. Now, this 3-pound squishy mass that we call our brain has the ability to grow. We call it neurogenesis, and what has happened over the centuries, our brain has expanded forward into this area right behind our forehead. That's called the prefrontal cortex. That prefrontal cortex allows us to plan. One of the things it allows us to do is to visualize the future, or visualize what we're doing now. For example, the chairs that you're sitting in, if you could take a look at your chair, you can also close your eyes and imagine that chair being up here. And you can see that chair turn, and you can visualize what that chair looks like from every different angle from your own visualization. That's the power of visualization. That's the power of imagery. That's the power of understanding that in the 1976 Olympics, when the European countries far outperformed the United States, those Olympics were the Olympics where Mike Spitz was one of the great swimmers, and they also had the first evidence of terrorists, where the Israeli team was captured by the terrorists and everybody got killed on a plane in Munich, Germany. Well, what the outcome of, not that, but of the Olympics was that the Eastern Bloc countries were using visualization and imagery to allow their performers to increase their performance skills. I'll give you an example. We worked with some weightlifters, and what the weightlifters in Eastern Bloc countries were doing, they were imagining, or the instructors were having the weightlifters imagine that they could lift the weight. Let's say they could lift 150 pounds. They had them imagine that they could lift 170 pounds. And indeed, when they began lifting, they indeed could lift 170 pounds. So they actually outscored the United States by huge numbers in the 1976 Olympics. That was the development of us developing what we call peak performance skills in working with athletes in the United States. So we now, every athlete who performs does imagination and visualization skills. They imagine that they're going to win. They imagine that they're going to be successful. They imagine all kinds of different things to make them succeed. So let's take a look. We as a human being have one driving factor. We're all seeking pleasure. We avoid pain constantly. And the other thing that we do is we conserve energy. This is the driving force for the human body. We always seek pleasure. We avoid pain, and we conserve energy. This is actually guidelines from a great book called The Pleasure Principle by Doug Lucy, a book written about 10 years ago, and still very, very popular. So nature is our chauffeur. Nature is the driving force that drives us to seek pleasure. It drives us to avoid pain and drives us to conserve energy. Now remember, the energy that we get, we have to use it. And if we use it up too much, we get exhausted and we get tired and the body becomes weak and our immune system drops. So right now in the world, we're showing that we have limited resources. We're destroying our present resources dramatically. We have a lack of local governing. Our government is really not doing the right thing for us as far as a vegan lifestyle or a sustainable lifestyle. Are you aware that the government subsidizes meat, dairy, eggs, and all the other things? If we could get the government to subsidize those companies to convert to plant-based farming, we'd be much better off, right?
Yeah,
Right.
$50.
Well, I hope they win next week, huh?
I'll take that.
Okay. All right. Well, where are we going here? Okay, lack of world leadership, there's no doubt about that. Resources, lack of understanding and relationship between man and nature. We've lost that connection between man and nature. I mentioned overpopulation. Let's see if I can get that back. We are very overpopulated in the world today. So if you're having babies, make sure you count them. Life expectancy is decreasing. The CDC says we're now going backwards. Our eating patterns have shifted. Disease care has shifted. It's a moving target. It's no longer health care, it's disease care. We are now an impaired animal in a fragile environment. So that's our general health status. I'm going to go ahead. That's one picture of the evolution of man. That's where we're at today. This poor little guy sitting down. Sitting is the new smoking. It's not good for us. And here's what we really look like. We end up the last 10 to 15 years of our life sick and disabled because of eating animal protein. It's a bad, bad thing. So nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, those are the things that make us whole. Those are the factors that lifestyle medicine, the Dr. Teschler, he was very good. I liked him a lot. He was a great guy, a fellow who talked about cardiology and all the prostate cancer, breast cancer. Those are the substances that lifestyle medicine focuses on. So, nutrition, if you could go to a plant-based, whole food, no oil diet, exercise, if you could just increase your movements. Movement is exercise. So if you increase your movement, you're going to be doing meditation, yoga, a little Tai Chi. Never hurt anybody. Sleep, that's our energy system controls. And if we could attend more Veg Fest and socialize with more people like all of us, we'd have a great life. So location. I'm almost done here. Let's throw the internal things. What can we do externally to help life in general? Certainly cut back on your transportation use. I know these electric cars are over here. Certainly take a look at them. It's certainly the direction of the future. We must stop all animal agriculture. It's a horrible event. Water supplies are getting few and far between. Someone said that's our next goal, GOLD, gold. Drive less, work more, eat plants, conserve water, shower with a friend. If you're going to flush the toilet at night, remember yellow is mellow, brown goes down. Reduce, refuse. Let's go back to that. That's important. The 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Very, very important. We need to all begin to do that. And finally, what am I doing here? Plant a tree or two, don't use chemicals, eliminate plastic use reusable shopping bags, volunteer. I think we should all volunteer. That's what I'm doing here. Educate yourself and others, documentaries. I just saw one, The Invisible Vegan. It's a diet on the black vegan. Interesting program. You must watch it. It's a good program for everybody to see. The Invisible Vegan. Yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, I'm all for those. So if I give you anything, take off your shoes and take a walk. Thanks very much.